What if the story of human evolution, from primitive cavemen to modern Homo sapiens, wasn't exactly as we've been taught? Science maintains that we gradually evolved from ape-like ancestors into the humans we are today. But what if that narrative isn't the whole truth? The theory of cyclic civilizations suggests that we descend from a succession of highly advanced species. In this view, humans were never crude or unintelligent. Instead, some of our predecessors may have been more sophisticated than we are now. Does this idea make sense? Who were these advanced civilizations that existed before us? What evidence supports their existence? And perhaps the most intriguing question, what became of them? We're about to explore all of this in today's episode of Digging History. Welcome. Imagine this. Tomorrow, a massive comet strikes Earth. Cities vanish overnight, skyscrapers collapse, and all our technology crumbles. Fast forward a few thousand years, and our towers are reduced to dust. A million years later, what remains? Perhaps a few cryptic ruins, traces of glass, or something embedded in rock. It's uncertain at best. Now consider what archaeologists of the distant future might conclude. Our existence could seem like a fleeting, almost mythical rumor, if it's remembered at all. Here's the unsettling possibility. What if this scenario has already occurred multiple times? This is the essence of the Cyclic Civilizations Theory. Let's simplify it. Think of Earth as a giant beach playground. Children build intricate sandcastles, tall, elaborate, gleaming with designs. Suddenly, a wave crashes in, washing everything away. Naturally, the kids are disappointed. But after some time, they start building new sandcastles. Different designs, equally magnificent. And again, another wave comes, repeating the cycle endlessly. This is the principle behind cyclic civilizations. Humanity hasn't simply progressed in a straight line from primitive to modern. Earlier humans may have constructed civilizations as advanced as ours, or even more so. Catastrophic events like floods, volcanic eruptions, and ice ages wiped them out. And just like the children, humanity started anew, gradually forgetting what had come before. It may sound fantastical, but there is intriguing evidence to consider. First, look at ancient myths. Many cultures share remarkably similar stories. They speak of a prior age when humans, or gods, built wonders beyond imagination. Then calamity struck. Fire, flood, or ice, and everything vanished. Take Atlantis, which supposedly sank in a single night. Consider India's Mahabharata, which mentions flying vehicles and devastating weapons capable of leveling cities. Or the Mayans, who meticulously charted cosmic cycles, predicting both destruction and renewal. These tales come from different continents, cultures, and languages, yet they convey a strikingly consistent message. Skeptics may dismiss these as mere mythology, but anomalies begin to appear that defy conventional explanation. The Klerksdorp spheres in South Africa, dated over 3 billion years old. Ancient maps depicting Antarctica, free of ice. Göbekli Tepe, a temple complex built 12,000 years ago, long before agriculture or writing existed. Could these scattered artifacts be remnants of civilizations erased by cataclysmic events? And if so, what does that imply about the so-called modern age we live in today? Hindu tradition, for instance, tells us we are currently in the Kali Yuga, a dark age marked by greed, corruption, conflict, and spiritual decline. The cycle's supposed endpoint aligns disturbingly well with current global conditions: wars, crumbling societal trust, and obsession with technology. It's less a myth and more a reflection of present-day realities. And according to these ancient texts, this period doesn't conclude with steady progress. It ends with a complete reset. Consider that chilling possibility. All our achievements, from cities to technology, might merely be the latest sandcastle awaiting the next wave. Perhaps Atlantis was not unique. Perhaps the Sumerians were not the first. Maybe each age of humanity is simply another repetition in a cycle extending millions of years. So the question is no longer simply, were there civilizations before us? Now, the more pressing question is, how many times has this cycle occurred, and are we next? If you find our 12-month calendar impressive, ancient India would likely scoff. Why? Because they possessed a far grander system, the Yuga calendar, or Yuga cycle. Unlike standard calendars, which measure time in centuries, this system calculates ages lasting hundreds of thousands of years. These ages, or yugas, are divided into 4 distinct stages. The first is the Satya Yuga, often called the Golden Age, a period of peak human spirituality, knowledge, and harmony between technology and morality. But each age that follows moves further from this Golden Age, descending step by step. The second age is known as Treta Yuga, or the Silver Age. During this period, power begins to fracture, and ambition starts to drive people's actions. Vices gradually creep in, subtly eroding the moral foundation of society. Next comes the Bronze Age, called Dwapara Yuga. Here, spirituality declines further, and conflicts become more frequent. People become increasingly obsessed with material possessions and worldly success, showing signs of intense greed and rivalry. Finally, we reach Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, or Dark Age. This is a period marked by corruption, war, and relentless societal decline. Many believe we are living in this very age. According to Hindu cosmology, this cycle is governed by a cosmic law. Civilizations rise, flourish, decay, and eventually collapse. Then the wheel turns, and the cycle begins anew with the pure Satya Yuga. So where are we on this cosmic wheel today? Prepare yourself, because the answer may be unsettling. Around 150 BC, the Greek astronomer Hipparchus noticed a strange phenomenon. The stars don't remain fixed. Over thousands of years, constellations slowly drift, a movement called the precession of the equinoxes. Completing a full cycle takes roughly 26,000 years. To modern scientists, it's a curious astronomical fact. To ancient civilizations, it was a cosmic clock. The Greeks called it the Great Year. The Maya recorded it in their long count calendar. Egyptians aligned their temples with the shifting stars. Hindu scholars connected it directly to the Yugas, demonstrating how the rise and fall of civilizations coincided with specific celestial alignments. Consider this. Why would primitive societies across the world meticulously track a 26,000-year cycle unless they believed it influenced civilization itself? Were they aware that cosmic alignments might trigger catastrophic events? Or were they preserving knowledge from an earlier advanced age?
5 credits.
According to Hindu texts, the Iron Age lasts 432,000 years. Many researchers argue that we are approaching its final stages, a notion that seems all too plausible. Political corruption, global conflicts, moral decay, and technological advancement without wisdom. These are precisely the signs described in the texts. Doesn't that sound eerily familiar? And the Great Year Cycle? Some experts suggest we have arrived at the same astronomical point associated with previous societal collapses. If this theory holds, our modern civilization may be on the brink of another reset. This raises a provocative question. Are we truly the most advanced humans ever, or merely the latest iteration in a recurring cycle? If the ancient texts are accurate, time doesn't move forward linearly. It loops back, and the next global reset could already be looming. The Bible's wisest king once said, "There is nothing new under the sun." Many interpret this as a commentary on mundane human activities, business ideas, or inventions. But perhaps Solomon was also speaking about the human race itself. While modern humanity boasts of unprecedented technological and scientific progress, there is a strong possibility that advanced civilizations existed long before us. One of the most fascinating examples is the legendary civilization of Mu. While mainstream scholars label Mu a myth, some evidence challenges that dismissal. The story began in the 19th century and gained global attention in 1926, when British author and former soldier James Churchward published a trilogy, The Lost Continent of Mu, The Children of Mu, and The Sacred Symbols of Mu. These works immortalize the name Mu in popular history. Churchward didn't write fiction. He claimed to have real proof, evidence he had been studying for decades. During his service in colonial India, he became close to a temple priest who revealed a secret collection of ancient, sun-baked stone tablets. These were inscribed in a language known only to a handful of priests, the Naga Maya language. Eager to learn, Churchward struck a deal with the priest. In exchange for his help in preserving and restoring the fragile tablets, the priest would teach him the forgotten language. The translation process unveiled astonishing revelations. According to Churchward, the tablets described the creation of Earth, the rise of Mu, and a race known as the Nakal. This civilization thrived tens of thousands of years ago, between roughly 50,000 and 12,000 BCE, in a land larger than present-day South America. But Mu wasn't a primitive settlement. Its population exceeded 64 million, organized into 10 tribes under a unified government and religion. The people built 7 major cities, with colonies spanning much of the globe. Churchward even claimed they were superior in many respects to our own civilization. And where exactly was this legendary land? You guessed it, right here on Earth, in the vast Pacific Ocean. According to Churchward, Mu extended from east to west, spanning from the Marianas to Easter Island, and from north to south, stretching from Hawaii down to Mangaia. Not only was this landmass enormous, but Churchward described it as incredibly fertile and vibrant, a place brimming with rivers, rolling hills, and expansive plains. It seemed like the perfect setting for the inhabitants he described, a godlike race, possibly the true progenitors of civilization as we know it. What began as cryptic inscriptions on ancient clay tablets evolved into the astonishing vision of an entire continent and the haunting possibility that humanity had experienced highly advanced civilizations long before recorded history. And, as Churchward suggested, perhaps Mu was the mother of them all. Of course, relying solely on one individual's account isn't enough to prove that a mother civilization existed. This is where physical evidence comes into play. And one of the most compelling indicators of Mu's legacy is found on Easter Island, the Moai statues. Standing silently on a remote Pacific island, these colossal stone figures were crafted by the Rapa Nui people between 1250 and 1500 CE. But these aren't just any statues. With heads 3 times the size of their bodies, they make a statement impossible to ignore. The tallest of these monuments, known as Paro, towers 10 meters high and weighs an astonishing 82 tons. Moving such massive stones without modern machinery is mind-boggling. When outsiders asked the Rapa Nui why they built them, the answer was simple: to honor their ancestors. But this only deepens the mystery. Who were these ancestors, and where did they come from? Here's where it gets fascinating. Easter Island lies squarely within the area Churchward claimed as part of Mu. Could the Rapa Nui have been descendants of Mu's survivors, rather than isolated islanders? This theory radically changes the narrative. Think about it. Why would a small, remote community attempt such monumental feats unless they were following instructions or traditions passed down from a lost civilization? And the materials themselves weren't ordinary. The Rapa Nui carved the Moai from volcanic tuff, a soft yet durable rock formed from compressed ash, sourced directly from the Rano Raraku crater, and transported these colossal figures across challenging terrain. Here's the perplexing part. Carving the Moai is one challenge, but moving them miles across rugged terrain is another. According to Rapa Nui oral tradition, the statues walked to their destinations. While this sounds impossible, the legend persisted for generations. Modern researchers Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo have explored the idea and suggest the Rapa Nui may have walked the statues upright using ropes, rocking them side to side to shuffle them forward. Others believe the statues were rolled on timber logs, a method that would have required significant deforestation. Churchward, however, supported a more mystical explanation, that the Moai were moved through spiritual energy. If the statues truly contained hidden power, perhaps the Rapa Nui were correct. These monuments weren't just artistic expressions. They were reminders that their ancestors were extraordinary. And if Easter Island's Moai weren't enough to suggest recurring advanced civilizations, there is another clue linking humanity's greatest monuments into this same cyclical theory: the pyramids. But before we examine the pyramids, it's important to consider other civilizations that may have contributed to their construction. One notable example is Atlantis. Around 360 BC, the Greek philosopher Plato shared a tale that continues to captivate imaginations. In his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, he described an island nation beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the modern-day Strait of Gibraltar. This island was Atlantis. According to Plato, Atlantis was no ordinary land. It was immense, wealthy, and breathtaking. Palaces were adorned with precious metals, canals crisscrossed the land, and powerful fleets dominated the seas. The Atlanteans excelled in engineering, philosophy, and military strategy. In short, Atlantis had it all. But as the story goes, the Atlanteans grew greedy, seeking conquest and dominion. The gods, displeased by their arrogance, decided to intervene. In a single day and night of misfortune, Atlantis sank beneath the waves. Many scholars dismiss Plato's story as an allegory about pride before a fall. But what if he was not speaking metaphorically? What if he was documenting the existence of a real civilization, one so advanced that nature itself obliterated it from history? Now let's jump ahead, roughly 12,000 years. Around 10,800 BCE, the Earth entered a period known as the Younger Dryas, a time of extreme climate upheaval. Temperatures plummeted suddenly, ice sheets collapsed like fragile concrete buildings, and sea levels surged more than 400 feet. These events were highly unusual. Some researchers suggest a comet impact triggered global floods and firestorms. Sound familiar? This aligns almost perfectly with the timeline Plato gave for Atlantis. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. Underwater ruins continue to surface around the world. Off the coast of Japan lies Yonaguni, a submerged stone structure resembling an ancient city. Near India, the legendary city of Dwarka rests beneath the waves. Even in the Caribbean and Mediterranean, sonar scans reveal entire landscapes hidden underwater. Perhaps Plato wasn't inventing a myth after all. Maybe Atlantis was his way of preserving a memory, a stark warning that even the most powerful civilizations can vanish overnight. And if this has happened once, why couldn't it happen again? While you ponder that, let's turn to another empire that seemingly vanished without a trace. This is yet another civilization that met an abrupt, unexplained end, adding weight to the Cyclic Civilizations Theory. Look at maps from the 1500s through the 1800s. For over 3 centuries, European cartographers depicted a massive land called Tartaria, or Grand Tartary. Have you heard of it? These maps, produced by French, Dutch, German, and English mapmakers, all showed Tartaria stretching from the Caspian Sea to the Pacific Ocean, and from Siberia deep into Central Asia. Some maps even subdivided it into Russian Tartary, Chinese Tartary, and independent Tartary. So here's the question: how does such a vast civilization simply vanish? By the mid-1800s, Tartaria began to disappear from maps. Atlases and geography books stopped mentioning it. An empire that dominated maps for 300 years suddenly vanished from history. What happened? Clues emerge when you examine contemporary events. Around the same time, Tartaria disappeared. Cities in Europe and America suddenly sprouted monumental architecture. Government buildings, train stations, exhibition halls, and grand boulevards, all seemingly appearing overnight in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Take San Francisco, for instance. After the 1906 earthquake, the city supposedly rebuilt itself in just a few years, producing structures that still amaze modern engineers. Normally, such a recovery would take decades, yet elaborate stone facades and massive civic buildings appeared almost instantly. Or consider Chicago's World's Columbian Exposition in 1893. The so-called White City spanned 600 acres with over 200 ornate buildings, including the world's largest structure at the time. And we're told it was designed and completed in just 2 years. Entire complexes with domes, columns, and intricate ironwork were constructed at a pace that still baffles modern architects. Then, strangely, many of these buildings were torn down shortly after the fairs ended. Why invest so heavily in monumental architecture only to demolish it? Could it be that these weren't new at all? Tartarian theorists suggest that these were renovated remnants of older structures, erased before too many questions could be asked. Another piece of evidence is the Great Mud Flood. Walk through historic quarters in Seattle, New York, or St. Petersburg, and you'll notice oddities. Grand buildings partially buried, first floors submerged, windows peeking out at street level. Mainstream history calls this urban development, streets rising over time. But Tartaria researchers argue the scale is far too massive and sudden. They propose that a global catastrophe in the 1800s buried entire cities in mud and debris, leaving only rooftops and upper floors visible. Seattle's underground confirms this as well. Entire districts were buried and reconstructed on higher ground, with similar patterns appearing worldwide. Combine this with the timing of Tartaria's disappearance, and a chilling possibility emerges. A catastrophe wiped out the empire, and survivors' buildings were reassigned to other civilizations. The engineering of Tartaria's structures is also remarkable, leaving modern experts puzzled. How could a supposedly backdated civilization construct such feats unless they were themselves highly advanced? The evidence is clear. Perhaps we are not the first civilization. Perhaps we did not simply evolve from cavemen to modern humans in a linear fashion. Maybe humanity is just repeating cycles, rising, thriving, collapsing, and starting over. What do you think? Are we merely the latest attempt in a repeating pattern of advanced civilizations? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into ancient mysteries.